He laughed right in front of all his friends. You really think I'd ever introduce you to my parents? The table went dead silent. His buddies shifted uncomfortably, throwing glances back and forth like they were watching a car crash in slow motion. Me? I just smiled, took a slow sip of my Aperol Spritz, and said something quiet that would change everything. Don't worry. You won't have to. Then I stood up, grabbed my Tory Burch clutch, and walked straight out of that rooftop bar overlooking downtown Seattle. No screaming. No dramatic tears. Just silence, so heavy you could hear it landing on all those uncomfortable faces I was leaving behind. But here's the thing about walking away with your head held high, the real pain hits later. That night, around 11:30 p.m., my phone buzzed. A text from Liam, his best friend. My hands actually shook so hard I almost dropped my phone. What he told me made everything click into place. Every suspicious late night. Every weird lie. Every time I'd twisted myself into a pretzel trying to make sense of things that never added up. My name is Sophia. I'm 31 years old. And up until that bar, I thought I was dating the love of my life. His name was James. We'd been together for almost 2 years, and I genuinely believed we had something real. Something solid and grown up and built to last. Turns out, I was just another secret in a story he didn't want anyone else reading. Looking back now, I can see all the moments I should have trusted my gut. But when you're in it, when you're with someone who knows exactly what to say to make you feel seen, you ignore the warning signs, you rationalize them away. You tell yourself that love is supposed to feel complicated sometimes. That's what I told myself. Anyway, we met through work. I'm a senior project manager at a marketing and design agency called Beacon Creative, and James was a high-level client, confident, charming, with one of those easy smiles that makes you forget to be careful with your own heart. The kind of guy who makes you feel like you're the only person in the room, even when the room is full of people. Our first date turned into breakfast the next morning at this cute little spot in Capitol Hill. That turned into weekends together. Then he left a toothbrush at my apartment, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Within months, we were inseparable. Or at least, that's what I thought he used to say. I made him feel calm. That he'd never had someone who just understood him the way I did. He said it like he meant it, looking right into my eyes with that intensity that made my stomach flip. And I believed every word, but slowly, so slowly, I almost didn't notice it happening. Small things stopped making sense. Whenever I'd ask about meeting his family, he'd brush me off with excuses that sounded reasonable in the moment, but made no sense when I thought about them later. My parents are very private people, sophomore. They're not like your family. My mom's old-fashioned. She'll judge you before she even knows you. Let's wait. We should probably wait until things are more serious. Is that okay with you? More serious? We were already planning trips to Portland and talking about moving in together. We'd picked up furniture. We'd made plans. How much more serious could we possibly get? But I let it slide. Because that's what you do when you're in love. You rationalize. You accept explanations that don't quite fit. You tell yourself that everyone moves at their own pace, and maybe James was just slower than other people. Maybe his family situation was complicated. Maybe I was being too pushy. Love makes you forgive red flags until they form a whole parade. It was supposed to be a casual Friday night. Just drinks downtown with his crew. James invited me along, and I have to admit, I hesitated. I wasn't especially close with his friends. They were loud, confident guys who always seemed to be in on inside jokes I didn't understand, but he insisted. Come on, babe, they've been asking about you. He said that should have been my first real warning sign. His friends had never really asked about me. They'd been awkward around me, if anything. Like they were sitting on information they weren't supposed to share. I showed up at the rooftop bar around 8 o'clock on a Friday evening. It was one of those trendy Seattle spots with craft cocktails and a view of Elliott Bay. The table was already crowded. James's 3 best friends, 2 of their girlfriends, and 1 woman I'd never seen before. She had dark hair, was wearing a cream-colored blazer, and she was sitting right next to James, leaning in close to him, laughing too hard at something he'd said. Something in my chest tightened, but I pushed it down. James greeted me with just a quick kiss on the cheek. Nothing warm. Nothing that said he was genuinely happy I was there. Just the minimum required gesture. I took the only available seat, directly across from him, and tried to settle in. The conversation was almost entirely inside jokes, stories from trips I'd never heard about, names I didn't recognize, laughter at references that meant nothing to me. I felt like a ghost at my own relationship. Like I was watching other people's life instead of living my own. Around halfway through the evening, one of the girlfriends, a sweet woman named Tara, smiled at James and asked him something that seemed casual at the time. So, James, When are you finally introducing Sophia to your parents? 2 years is a long time, dude. I laughed. Just a light, easy laugh. I expected him to laugh too, or make a teasing comment back. Something sweet and couple-ish that would make everyone feel comfortable. Instead, he leaned back in his chair, smirked, and laughed like he'd just heard the funniest joke of his entire life. You really think I'd ever introduce her to my parents? His tone wasn't playful. It was cruel, sharp enough to cut right through the ambient noise of the bar. His friends froze. One of them actually coughed like he was choking. The woman beside him, the one in the cream blazer, gave him a look that was half shocked, half guilty, like she suddenly understood something about him that wasn't good. My heart didn't just drop. It completely disappeared. I felt my face go hot. Felt the room tilt slightly. Felt every pair of eyes at that table suddenly fixed on me, waiting to see what I would do. How I would react to being publicly humiliated by the man I loved, but I refused to give him the satisfaction of seeing me break. I just smiled. Said something quiet and controlled that probably made me sound braver than I felt. Don't worry. You won't have to. Then I stood up, grabbed my purse, and got out of there. I didn't wait for him to follow. I didn't give him a chance to apologize or explain or spin whatever happened into something less devastating. I just left. What I didn't know was that the real unraveling was just beginning. I spent that night in my Capitol Hill apartment, staring at the ceiling of my bedroom, replaying that moment over and over. The laugh. The way he'd said it. The way everyone had looked at me. Hours passed. No calls. No apologies. No text saying he didn't mean it. Nothing but silence, which felt even worse than anything he could have said. Then around 11:30 p.m., my phone buzzed. A text from Liam, James's best friend since college. The one person I'd thought might actually have my back in his friend group. The message said, "Sophia, I need to tell you something. Please don't tell James." The first texted. My stomach literally flipped. I called him immediately, my voice trembling so badly I could barely get the words out. "What's going on, Liam? What's happening?" He sighed heavily on the other end of the line. A really long, defeated sigh, like he'd been carrying something heavy and was finally about to put it down. "Look, what James did tonight was disgusting. And I need you to know, it's not the first time he's done something like that." My heart started pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. "What do you mean? What do you mean it's not the first time?" He hesitated. I could hear him breathing on the other end of the line, working up the courage to say whatever he was about to say. "You know that woman sitting next to him tonight? The one in the blazer?" Yes. I already knew where this was going. My brain was already connecting dots, forming a picture I didn't want to see. "That's Claire. His ex. The one he told you cheated on him years ago? They've been back together for months, Sophia. He's been seeing her behind your back. We, his friends, we didn't say anything because we thought he'd eventually come clean. But after tonight, after what he said, I couldn't not tell you." The apartment started spinning, everything blurred, the walls, the clock on my nightstand, my own reflection in the darkened window across from my bed. I couldn't breathe. It felt like someone had reached into my chest and squeezed. "Liam?" My voice came out small and broken. "Yeah? Are you telling me he's been cheating on me?" "For months." "I'm so sorry, Sophia." The rest of the conversation happened in a fog. He told me that James had lied to all of them about me, saying I was just casual, that I knew he was seeing other people. He apologized multiple times. His voice cracked. He said I didn't deserve any of it, and he was right. I didn't. By the time I hung up the phone, I wasn't sad anymore. I was something else entirely. I was clear. The next morning, James texted me, "You overreacted last night." I was just joking. "Let's talk." Joking, like humiliating me in front of a dozen people, was a punchline. Like making me question my entire reality was something to laugh off over coffee. I didn't respond to his text. Instead, I did something far more powerful. I opened my laptop and changed the password to every streaming account we shared: Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, everything. I canceled the trip to Portland I'd booked under my credit card, a 5-day getaway that was supposed to happen in 3 weeks. And then, methodically and without any emotion whatsoever, I blocked him on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and his phone number. It wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming my space, my life, my narrative, but I knew that blocking him everywhere wouldn't give me what I actually needed. I needed closure. Real closure. The kind that comes from looking someone in the eye and telling them exactly what they did wrong. So 2 days later, I texted him with a specific time and place: "Meet me at Arbor Cafe on Pike Street. 2 p.m. We need to talk." Arbor Cafe was a small, intimate coffee shop in Capitol Hill. Neutral ground. Busy enough that he wouldn't make a scene, but quiet enough that I could actually hear myself think he showed up exactly at 2 p.m., which told me he'd been planning to show up. He still wanted to fix this. Or rather, he still wanted to convince me that there was nothing to fix. He still thought he could charm his way out of this. He sat down across from me with that same arrogant grin, like nothing had happened. Like the last 48 hours hadn't completely destroyed my trust in him and in my own judgment. Finally, he said, reaching across the table. You had me worried. You know I didn't mean any of that. I didn't move. I just looked at him calmly, steadily, like I was looking at a stranger, because in that moment, I realized I was so. When exactly did you start seeing Claire again? I asked. He froze. His entire body went stiff. His smirk vanished like it had never existed at all. What are you talking about? He asked, but his voice had changed. The confidence was gone. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Liam told me everything. His face twisted. Anger, panic, guilt. All of it happening at once, playing out across his features like a movie I couldn't stop watching. Liam had no right. He started to say you had no right. I cut him off. My voice was steady and cold and absolutely certain. You humiliated me in public. You lied to me for months. You turned me into the fool in your story, and worse, you made me question my own mind. You made me think I was being paranoid or unreasonable for noticing that something was wrong. He tried to reach for my hand. To touch me like that would somehow make this all go away. I pulled my hand back. We're done, James. For real this time. And, just so you know, I sent your girlfriend, Claire, all the pictures from our last vacation together. I think she deserves to know the truth too. Don't you? He paled. His whole body went white like someone had drained all the blood from him. You didn't, he whispered. I did. Then I stood up, tossed a few dollars on the table for my coffee, and left. I didn't wait for a response. I didn't give him a chance to explain or apologize or convince me I'd misunderstood. I just got up and walked out. Again, and this time, I didn't look back. A week passed. I didn't hear from James. I didn't see him at work. His company had moved away from our agency about 6 months earlier, so at least I wouldn't have to worry about running into him in the hallways or the break room. But I did get a text from Liam. Just so you know, Claire broke up with him. Apparently, she found out he was seeing someone else besides you. He's a complete mess right now, going through a rough time. But that's not your problem anymore. I read that message 3 times. I didn't feel satisfied. I didn't feel vindicated or victorious or anything like that. What I felt was peace. Real, genuine peace, the kind that comes when you finally stop fighting for someone who never deserved you in the first place. When you stop trying to make sense of someone else's chaos. I didn't reply to Liam's text. I didn't need to. Instead, I did what I should have done a long time ago. I started actually living my life instead of trying to make room for someone who wouldn't even introduce me to his parents. I had lunch with friends I'd been neglecting. I went to that yoga studio I'd been meaning to try. I took myself on dates, nice dinners at restaurants I actually wanted to go to, museums without compromising on what interested me. I read books. I watched movies. I remembered what it felt like to be alone with myself and actually enjoy it. My therapist, yes, I started seeing a therapist after all this, told me that healing isn't about forgetting what happened. It's about integrating the experience into your life in a way that makes you stronger. It's about understanding what you learned about yourself and about what you need from a partner. I learned that I was stronger than I thought. I learned that I could walk away, even when it was hard. I learned that my gut had been trying to tell me something the entire time, and I'd just been too afraid to listen. 3 months later, something unexpected happened. I met someone new. His name was Michael. We met at a friend's dinner party in Ballard, and he was completely different from James. He asked me about my work and actually listened to my answers. He laughed at my jokes. And most importantly, after our 3rd date, he asked if he could meet my family. I'd really like to know the people who made you who you are. He said. I actually cried when he said that. Not sad tears, happy tears, relieved tears, the kind of tears that come when you've been holding your breath for so long and finally remember how to exhale. Michael was kind. Michael was honest. Michael looked me in the eyes when he spoke to me. Michael didn't make me question my worth or my sanity or my reality. With Michael, I didn't have to fight to be seen. Sometimes I still think about that night on the rooftop bar. The way James laughed like I was a joke, the way his friends looked at me with that mixture of pity and awkwardness, the way the woman in the cream blazer gave me that guilty look, like she suddenly understood what kind of person she was dealing with. But now, when I think about it, I laugh too. Because I finally understand the punchline. He didn't lose just a girlfriend that night. He lost the best thing that ever happened to him. He lost someone who believed in him even when he didn't deserve it. Someone who would have fought for him. Someone who loved him at his best and would have stood beside him at his worst. Instead, He got exactly what he deserved, a life where he had to lie about the woman he was with, where he couldn't even introduce her to the people who mattered most to him. A life where he was constantly juggling stories that didn't match up. A life where nobody could ever really trust him. I don't hate him anymore. I don't even think about him that often anymore. But when I do, I feel something like pity. He had something real with me, and he chose to throw it away for something fake with Claire, and whatever comes next, that's not on me, that's on him, and I've made peace with that now, 8 months after that awful night at the bar. My life looks completely different. Michael and I are talking about moving in together, but this time, the conversation isn't forced. It's not something I'm pushing for or hoping will happen. It's just a natural next step for both of us. I'm still working at Beacon Creative, but I got promoted to creative director. Turns out when you're not spending your emotional energy trying to figure out why your boyfriend won't introduce you to his parents, you have a lot more mental space for career advancement. My relationship with Liam is complicated. He did the right thing by telling me, but he also enabled James for a long time by staying quiet. We're not friends, but we're not enemies. We're somewhere in the middle. He sent me a message on Instagram about a month ago that said, "I'm really happy you found someone who sees you." I didn't respond, but I appreciated that he was paying attention to my happiness. I don't know what happened to James the First. Don't follow him on social media. I don't ask mutual friends about him. I just know that he's somewhere out there, probably still telling lies, probably still running from commitment, probably still trying to convince people that he's the victim in his own story, but that's his story. Not mine. My story is different now. It's a story about a woman who walked away, who didn't settle for less than she deserved, who trusted her instincts even when her heart wanted to believe something different, who learned that the person you need to introduce yourself to isn't always a parent or a friend or a family member. Sometimes it's yourself. I had to introduce myself, to the part of me that was brave enough to leave, to the part of me that was worth being introduced to someone's family, to the part of me that deserved honesty and clarity and a love that didn't require me to make excuses or question my reality. That introduction, that's the one that changed everything, and it all started with a moment of silence and a smile and 4 simple words: don't worry. You won't have to. Sometimes the best things we say aren't arguments or explanations. Sometimes they're exits, sometimes they're refusals. Sometimes they're the quiet moments where we take back our own power. That night, I took mine back, and I've never looked back since.